Oil prices soaring. West Texas crude now hovering around $100 a barrel. You can see this chart over time. The last time it was this high was when Russia invaded Ukraine, and that height was at June of 2022. But I want you to look at the very end of this chart, an almost vertical increase over the last 2 weeks, an incredibly quick rise over a very short period of time. It could get even higher, experts say, by the end of March, maybe even $150 a barrel if travel through the Strait of Hormuz does not start flowing again. That flow of oil through that critical waterway has effectively ground to a halt. It's only a 20-mile stretch of sea between Iran and Oman, and actually only a 2-mile wide sea lane. The president shrugged off the rise in oil prices, calling it a very small price to pay for USA and world safety and peace. CNN's Matt Egan is with us now. In these prices we've seen overnight, the sharp increase, more than 10% in one day, Matt. That's pretty staggering.
Yeah, it is absolutely staggering. Look, oil prices are going through the roof. And you know, oil is a notoriously boom to bust market. But even by those standards, this is just a historic spike. Look at this. Oil prices 9 months ago, all the way on the left side of your screen. That was the last time there were tensions with Iran and a conflict. And that looks like just a tiny increase compared to what's going on now. Before the war started, U.S. oil prices were trading at about $67 a barrel. At one point overnight, they got to $119 a barrel. Now, let's look at a live look at oil prices. You can see they have pulled back from that peak just over $100 now. However, 11% increase, a $10 increase of dollar amounts. At one point this morning, U.S. oil prices were on track for their biggest one-day dollar increase in history. Now, as you mentioned, the problem is the fact that this war has disrupted the supply of oil out of the Middle East. And it's not just that the Strait of Hormuz effective closure is delaying the shipment of oil out of the region. It's the fact that oil producers there, they have nowhere to put the oil. They're literally running out of room to store it all. So they have to slash production. And you look at gas prices, $2.98 before the war started, $3.48 a gallon right now. That's the highest level since August of 2024. Quite the move in just the span of a little over a week. And, you know, this is another look at gas prices as well. Zooming out, you can see how it's just going significantly higher. Now, it's not just gas, though, John. Jet fuel, right? Jet fuel prices have skyrocketed. United Airlines CEO warning that could raise the cost of airfare. And diesel as well. Diesel prices, they're actually up by even more than gasoline on a percentage basis. 24% increase. This is a 3-year high. And look, this is bad news for farmers, for railroads, for trucks, and ultimately, John, for consumers, because everyone is indirectly paying the cost of diesel when they're buying stuff. So this is a significant situation. And look, the White House is arguing, the president has said that this is hopefully just a short-term glitch and that prices will eventually crash. Hopefully, he's right. I think the bottom line here is how long does this last, right? The duration. Because if this is just a few days of $100 or so oil, this could end up just being a blip economically. But if this is something that lasts in terms of weeks or even longer, then you're going to start to hear some people really concerned about a potential recession caused by higher energy prices. And looking at U.S. stock futures, they're down, but not dramatically lower given the scale of the spike in oil prices.
Again, when I woke up overnight and prices were around $120 a barrel, there was, I don't want to use this word loosely, but there was borderline panic at the steep increase in just a few hours.
Absolutely, there's no other way to look at it.
People were on the edge of their seats for a few hours. Matt Egan, thank you very much for that.
There was an overnight drone attack on the residential area of Sitra, which is near key energy infrastructure in Bahrain. Now, that drone attack injured 32 people, including 4 children, 1 2-month-old, 2 young boys, and a 17-year-old girl. The latest we've heard from Bahrain is that its national oil company, Bapco, has actually just issued a force majeure. That essentially means that it won't be able to meet its contractual requirements to deliver certain amounts of oil due to an unforeseen circumstance, that unforeseen circumstance being this ongoing conflict. Video geolocated by CNN shows an industrial area that houses one of the Bapco refineries on fire recently, with large amounts of black smoke billowing from it. Whether that is linked to this force majeure or not, we don't know. We've reached out to BAPCO for comment, and we can let you know when we find out more. But I think what this really points to is that this weekend, Iran has consistently targeted Bahrain's civilian infrastructure. Yesterday, a desalination plant was hit. It wasn't damaged to the point of no longer functioning, but it was hit. This morning, we see this drone strike in Sitra near energy infrastructure that's injured all these people. And now the latest is that in this other area of Bahrain, that one of these BAPCO refineries is on fire. So this really points to a clear target from Iran on these sorts of infrastructure.
G7 finance ministers meeting today to discuss whether to release oil from their strategic reserves. CNN's business editor-at-large, Richard Quest, is live in London. Good to have you, Richard. We are looking at these prices as attacks continue to unfold on infrastructure across the region where I am. Question is, how bad could this get at this point?
According to one trader, the sky's the limit. For one simple reason. Look, we came back from 120 down to these levels because of that G7 meeting, which is taking place. But the factor that's really moving this market, firstly, that there is very little oil moving through the Strait of Hormuz, virtually none at all. So the supply is almost non-existent, or the increasing supply is non-existent. And the second factor, the damage that is being done to infrastructure, both in Iran and elsewhere, when you see, for example, as you saw in Bahrain, with the depots being blown up. So you take those two factors and you end up with a market that is extremely worried about what comes next. We went into this war, by the way, with a glut of oil, which is why we had a price of around $60 a barrel. That has evaporated, and now the concern is not only the supply, but frankly, just will they even be able to handle the stuff if they can get it out the ground?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the fact that the world doesn't have oil. It's just moving that oil around and getting it to the places that matter most. And that includes, of course, to refineries where, you know, we're not just talking about oil here, but we're talking about refined products, aren't we? And those products around the world are massively important to the global economy. The G7 ministers are weighing releasing strategic reserves. What does that look like? What might that look like, Richard?
Okay, so if you start releasing the reserves, of which all major governments have a certain large number, and the US has, I mean, gazillions based. It's in the porous rock and in the mountains, in the ground in the United States. That does bring the price down, no question about it. But it is a short-term measure. Essentially, you are making it available to the market, but you're not able to replenish it. You can in the US because you've got, of course, local supply, but elsewhere you won't be able to replenish it. So the moment you release your supplies, your stores, if you will, that is a one-hit wonder. You had better hope that the overall situation improves. If you have a scenario where the President of the United States says he and the Israelis will decide when this ends, and you've got the Iranians saying no surrender, it's difficult to see this end soon. And in that scenario, why would the price come down other than through artificial means such as release of supplies?